Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for stopping by for another episode of Friday Reads, aka where I talk about all the books I read this week and or plan on reading this weekend. It has been a long time since I made a video and I have been really busy. And so yeah, that's my answer. And also too, I really wasn't reading much, and so there was really nothing to talk about. But I do have a video that I recorded, or I attempted to, and so hopefully I could edit that and get that out there as well. So there might be two videos, or it might just be one, or it might not be any at all. I guess it depends on how I feel. And so yeah, I've been stressing out and really wanting to get back into reading, but it's just been like really hard to just find anything that really grabbed my attention and kept it for the duration of the entire book. Anyways, yeah, so there were some books that I was trying to get into, but honestly I just really couldn't do it. I recently just found out that Lena Dunham has a book that came out probably like a few weeks ago now. I started reading that. It was Famesick. I got it on my Kindle. I was really interested in reading that. I am like 11% the way through. I started reading that a week ago, 2 weeks ago. At the same time, I wanted to listen to her interviews, but then I found out that she had another book previous, like she had published a book before this one called Not That Kind of Girl. So it's like, okay, well, since that one talks about her 20s and this one talks about from her 20s on up, I wanted to read Not That Kind of Girl first. I ended up listening to that one on Audible. Yeah, I enjoyed it. There were moments that were pretty funny, and I think sometimes like when you are listening to an Audible book by the person who wrote the book, especially if they're like actors and they're in that industry, I would think that when they tell their story, they're more animated. And I'll explain myself further when I get into another book that I'm reading by another actress. So I was listening to it and it was pretty good. We follow her years within her 20s and a little bit, you know, she goes a little bit into when she's younger and stuff like that, talks about her childhood and stuff like that. She reflects on a lot of her relationships. I guess she keeps in mind this question of the kind of relationships that she has with these people, and how is this related to how she pretty much presents herself and how she feels about herself, and how her being lonely plays a role. I always thought that Lena Dunham was a really interesting person. When I hear people talk about how like a character is not like the other girls, I always thought that I would expect a character like Lena Dunham, like just how odd she is and how one of a kind her personality is. Because to me, when I first saw Girls, I never seen a character like Hannah, and I never watched a show like Girls, and it immediately captivated me. I'm sorry, I'm distracted by the birds. But the first two seasons that I saw were really good and I really enjoyed it, and it was just very different. And so it was really nice to get to know her, to get inside of her mind a little bit and get a better understanding of how she is and why she is the way that she is, and just her being able to put herself out there in the way that she did and be able to artistically express herself in that way. I didn't know that at the time that she had wrote and she was pretty much the boss when it came down to the show, and it just makes me that much more intrigued by her and feel a bit inspired by her as well, especially given the fact that she did this in her early 20s. She's like, what the heck, like this is amazing. But you see that she comes from she has an artistic background. Her parents took her to art shows and art exhibitions from when she was really young, and they are artists themselves. And so her wanting to artistically express herself doesn't, you know, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. But that also too, I think that also plays a part in how she was raised. To me, I would think like artists they can be pretty boundless. Their perspective on life and like the world, it can be very different, is what I'll say. And so you can see how they parent her and how it immediately affects how she views the world, the kind of relationships she engages in. It always comes back to our parents, right? it always circles back to our parents. So she says, you'll want to run away for a lot of reasons, but let's start with the most immediate. You are mad at your father because he's not taking you seriously when you say you think you'll lose your mind if you have to spend another night in your bedroom alone staring at the moon. He thinks you're having kid problems. He thinks kids have to get through their kid problems. He says, just try and understand that it won't get worse. The worst that would happen is that it would stay the same. This doesn't comfort you because he doesn't know that there is something in you, big, explosive, ready to surprise the world in a bad way if you're not handled right, ready to be beautiful if someone would just listen. From listening to the interactions that she had with her parents, it allowed me to understand how she could be so boundless and free in ways that can be self-destructive. From what I can remember, a lot of people made a big deal about her being so comfortable in front of the camera, whereas like normal people or most people would shriek at the idea of like exposing themselves, you know, to the world in that way. But to me, like, I thought that it was amazing. Like I said before, I'd never seen anything like that before, and so I was just like, oh my gosh. I think that there are some aspects of Lena that I feel like I can relate to, and I feel like I share with her, but because I grew up with the understanding of what's considered like normal and what's considered not normal, what is good versus what is not good, I was able to kind of not necessarily hide, but I knew right then and there that, okay, this is not something that I should be doing. So, but with Lena, it's like, I don't think, because of her parents, I don't think that she was ever taught like, hey, you know, maybe you shouldn't be doing these kinds of things. I feel like she was kind of like left out there to experience life for the sake of experiencing life, and whatever kind of happens was just a part of the journey. Oftentimes she kind of had to learn a lot of things on her own and figure it out on her own. I'm not saying that they were absent. As a kid, I've always wanted to have parents, or, you know, I have my mom. I always wanted my mom to be the kind of mom that would trust that I can go out there and do what I wanted to do, and then I can handle it the way that I wanted to handle it. I've always wanted to have the kind of mom that wasn't so strict in that way, but seeing on the other side of the spectrum, having parents that are completely like free and allows you to just do you, like, you know, even though I put you out here on this earth, like, the journey is yours. Like, I just think that, oh my gosh, it's like so funny. And you kind of see like how with her personality type, you kind of see like, and you kind of understand like, okay, now I get it. Now I get it. And like I said, I love her personality. I love the way that she just thinks about things. And sometimes it could be funny, and sometimes it could be like, girl, like, seriously, that's kind of crazy that you would do that, or you would think that, or you would say that. And it's like it's funny because you are not having to have a personal interaction with someone with a personality like that, but there is a self-awareness that she has when it comes down to the kind of person that she is and how she acts and the way that she goes about doing things and how she thinks and how she is able to process things and how she kind of like maneuvers through interactions and experiences with other people. And when she's able to have these kind of reflections, it does feel like there is some maturation that happens, maturing that happens. And so that's great, but at the same time, it's like, you love it, I love it, but from a distance kind of thing, because it's like, I just can't. I'm the type of person, like, you gotta take your shoes off before you come in my house. Okay, and so with that being said, I give this 3 stars. It was pretty good. There were some things in there that was like, ugh, that's kind of crazy, but I think once again, because of the way that she was raised and the kind of parents that she had, the time, how old she was throughout this entire book, and the choices that she's made, a lot of it is her exploring and her figuring things out all on her own. But also too, I think at its core, she's just a really lonely person, being so young and having these feelings but not knowing how to articulate it, not having the resources to really like understand it and then be treated for it or learn how to cope with it or manage it or whatever the case may be. She's forced to have to like experiment and do things in order to try and find something that could help to satisfy or fill in that emptiness that loneliness brings. And she explains how she has been lonely since she was like a kid, which is kind of sad. It really is sad. But so yeah, that's all that I have to say about that. So yeah, Famesick, like I said, it follows from her 30s on up, I think, and she talks about when she first moves to LA and how she gets her job as the writer and director for Girls, and her signing with HBO to produce the show. I didn't really get that far. I only got to the part where she talks about after she submits her film Tiny Furniture. Okay. I only got to the part where she talks about how she had submitted her film called Tiny Furniture to, it's like some sort of film festival or whatever the case may be, and then the success that comes after that, which I thought was like, I thought it was so amazing, like just her talking about being in New York and the friends that she made, and like her and her friend having a studio in this apartment, and how it was all about filming and all that stuff like that. It was just like, oh, like just being able to surround yourself with like-minded people and people who have the same aspirations and the same drive, and how having those kinds of connections can really get you far. One thing that I know for sure that I love is, I love a person that's very passionate about what they're passionate about. Like, I love it. It's so contagious and it's so inspiring, and it just makes me feel so good to watch someone who just loves what they love. So that was cool. I also got to watch Tiny Furniture on YouTube, and it was cool. It was cool. So I'm gonna pick back up on Famesick after I finish reading, because I'm currently 22% of the way of reading Katabasis by R.F. Kuang. I read her book Yellow Face a while back and I enjoyed it. I think I gave it like 3.75. Katabasis is about a Cambridge graduate student named Alice journeying to hell to find a professor whom in which she takes full responsibility and being the reason why he's dead and down in hell. More than anything and willing to give anything, Alice wants to be a magician for a tenure track job in analytic magic, and she specifically wants her professor's recommendation letter before the end of her term. Alice is a cross her T's, dot her I's kind of girl. She views herself as less fallible than most human beings, and any mistake feels unaffordable and embarrassing. That's our main character. Her name is Alice. Okay, we're also introduced to a guy named Peter, which we only see through Alice's perspective. So we're not getting an accurate, 100% truthful, you know, honest depiction of Peter. Anytime we are experiencing Peter's character, it's through the perspective and lens and bitterness of Alice, who they used to be friends, but something happened between them, and so now they're pretty much academic rivals. So Alice views Peter as the exact opposite of herself. His low effort, upkeep, and careless nature upsets her. His effortless genius status within the department makes her resent him. She thinks that because of his academic background, meaning his parents and their academic background, he's had it easier. They used to be friends freshman year, but something happened which caused their friendship to fizzle. Alice believes that behind his easy smile was an unreadable person, and Peter also has his reasons for needing to go to hell to find the soul of their advisor. Right now they're in the first portion of hell. I think they're trying to enter into the second circle. I think the first circle is the circle of pride, and so they have to define what good is. I really am enjoying it. I love her writing. I love watching her and listening to her in interviews. I just love people, once again, that loves what they love. Oftentimes I feel like whenever I'm trying to express myself or get my thoughts out, I feel not 100% confident in the things that I'm trying to say and like the things I'm trying to explain. I don't necessarily feel confident in the way that I relay information. And so just reading her books and just listening to her in interviews just really feels inspiring to want to be able to better articulate how I feel and what I'm thinking and what I'm trying to like say. The concept of like how pretty much being a mirror of their reality, which is like them being on campus, it to me, I feel like it tracks pretty well. I think oftentimes people think that hell is supposed to be like this red burning place, but in reality hell is, or heaven, pretty much, I feel these things, even our reality, is a making of our own consciousness, right? It follows along the guidelines of our limitations and what we are able to create with our minds. And so it being pretty much akin to or similar to Cambridge, like, to me, I was like, well, that makes sense. So they're pretty much having to find their professor there and retrieve his soul, get him to come back to Earth so that he can give them recommendations. Which I think it's so silly and it's so funny, but it also shows the desperation that we can feel when it's like everything is all on the line, and making that huge big gamble. It might not necessarily have to do with like within the academic field, but anybody can feel very desperate to want to obtain and acquire things that they pretty much put their entire life on the line for. She's willing to sacrifice half of her lifespan in order to venture it into hell in order to retrieve his soul. And that's even if it's a successful journey. Her wanting to be a magician is the only thing that she cares about, is the only thing that matters. And because of her personality and the way that she kind of like thinks and does things, there is no going back. There is no other alternative. It's this or nothing else. Last night I read that for like 30 minutes or like 30-40 minutes. Let me tell you, I could not go to sleep at first. Like, all I heard was words, like words, 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 as if I continued to read the book. And it was just like all these jumbled up words that just kept coming into my brain. I was just like, you know what, I'm never reading a dense book late at night right before I have to go to bed ever again. So right now I'm listening to Half His Age by Jennette McCurdy via Audible. I will put it up here or whatever. I am 66% of the way through, and we follow this girl named Waldo who is pretty much just fed up with life and her circumstances, and she has this deep desire for something else. It's almost like a craving. It's like an obsession, and she finds that satisfaction in her English teacher. I forgot his name. So like I was saying before, it's really hard to listen to to actresses and actors read their books, and it comes across so monotone and so bland. And so I'm reading it and it just doesn't really grab me. Like, I'm reading it for the story, but it doesn't seem eventful. The characters doesn't feel real. So we follow this student named Waldo, and to me, I feel like Waldo, when I think of the name Waldo, is that character, right, where they're usually in a sea of people and events that happens, and you have to go out and search for them type thing. Maybe she feels lost in the world, and there's just this desperation to be found because of her relationship with her mom, and just her mom having interest in finding connection in other men. And so there is this feeling of loneliness, there is this feeling of not feeling worthy based off of like her mom and what her mom does, that subconsciously the only way that she can get or receive any kind of connection with another person is if she is with a guy. You can see in the way that she tries to present herself in order to be received by her teacher. It becomes this obsession of wanting to be wanted by him, because it's like it doesn't feel like she is accepted by her peers because they make fun of her for, you know, living in a trailer park, and her mom is usually absent, when simply all there really needs to be is just to sit down and just be with each other. But it's like anytime that they do have these opportunities, there's a man right there that her mom is trying to integrate into their family dynamic, and usually those men don't want to. Because here's the thing, because I was like, well, what's wrong with her peers? Like, why can't she? Because it's not like they all don't like her. There are people that are interested in her, but she just feels like they don't want her, or the way that she is wanting to be wanted, they're not able to provide for her. They're not able to offer that to her. And I think it's largely because she just wants that adult attention. She just wants that adult love, and the next best thing is her teacher. But also too, she already has this mindset. She explains to her teacher that, you know, like how she pretty much was always an adult. She had to be she has to be an adult now. Even as a child, that's not how she's treated. She has to have a job, she has to pay bills, she has to provide for herself, and she has to take care of herself. And so having to have that be a thing that you do every single day in your life, your brain starts to develop in a way that you see kids and you don't feel like, you feel like there's a disconnect there, because like you have to be the adult constantly in a room full of kids that are not able to satisfy you in the way that you are programmed to think that you need to be satisfied. Now on the other side, it's like, well, why does he like, why does he pursue her? Why does he feel a connection to her when she's literally like half his age? And it's like, well, he's a loser. He's a loser, and that's pretty much where that ends, right? Put a period at the end of that. In all seriousness, yes, he's a loser, but also too, he doesn't feel, he's kind of trapped in time. He wants to live in this kind of world where there's someone that looks at him in a way that doesn't make him feel like he's a failure. He was an inspiring writer, but he wasn't successful in that his in-laws have to help him pay the bills, and they don't like him, and he just doesn't feel like anything that he can do is right. And then here comes Waldo coming in, and she's obsessing over him, and it feels like it kind of feels like low-key like starstruck over him, and it makes him feel important, and it makes him feel like there's someone here that views him as someone who is close as a famous writer, and that makes his ego feel good. And so I get it, but at the same time, it's just like, oh my gosh, it's okay. It's not like compelling, and it's not something that I feel like it's thought-provoking or anything. It's just entertaining, I guess. I'm also listening to another audiobook, and I listen to that when I'm like, you know, in my car, whatever the case may be. I kind of got a little bit audiobook happy. I'm currently reading Summer of 69 by Elin Hilderbrand. I am 25% of the way of this book, and we pretty much follow this family. There's Kirby, Jesse, Tiger, Kate, and Blair, I think her name is. And Kate is the mother, and her son gets deployed to Vietnam to fight in the war. And this is during the summer that they're all going to Nantucket to visit Kate's mom. And Jessie, she's probably like 13, 14 or something like that. And like so Kate had a husband, and they had 3 kids. And then he offed himself, and then she got remarried, and her husband is Jess's father. And so she is going to Nantucket to stay at her grandmother's house, Kate's mom, and she feels like her grandmother doesn't necessarily fully accept her dad. And so there's this awkwardness there with her brother being away at war, and then her sister Kirby, she's off the island, and she wants to be independent and get a job and experience life in a more fight for justice way, where she's doing these protests and being a part of these progressive groups that want to make a change in the world. And then her sister Blair, she's older, and she's pregnant with twins, and she's going through her marital issues because she believes her husband is cheating on her. For Jessie, it's a coming of age for her, and just having to build a relationship with her grandmother and get close with her mom, and just kind of like experience Nantucket now that she is of age. And of age, I mean, like, you know, like she's older now. She's not like a child. She's becoming a teenager, and like you start to see things differently when you're a teenager. There is this guy that she low-key has a crush on, and so she'll be able to experience Nantucket, I'm sure, through the lens of this relationship that she develops with this kid. With Kirby, she is on her own, and she believes that she needs to mature and change her life for the better, and she's meeting new people, and she's definitely putting herself in situations where she is able to experience things outside the confounds of what she grew up thinking and believing. and just pushing those boundaries, dismantling those boundaries, and just being really open to be a better human being and making better connections with people from all backgrounds and all races. And then with Blair, like I said, she has marital issues, but oh my god, I relate to her in so many ways, because when she talks about how she just doesn't feel the same and she feels different because she's pregnant, and like she feels like her life is not hers. Her husband wants her to stay at home. She just got accepted to Harvard, but he wants her to stay at home and take care of the household, and she just feels stuck. And I'm rooting for her, and we'll see how things go. She doesn't have that feistiness and rebelliousness that Kirby has, and so we shall see, because she does feel like her being the older sister, she needs to set a good example. And so yeah, we'll see how things go with that. It's getting dark now, and so I am going to go. Till next time, peace.